you have to be willing to show up on the days that you don't feel like showing up.
Yep.
Because those sessions are the ones that really make a big difference. So it's great
Yes.
if you can, if you're feeling good on a Monday and you go and smash out a session and you're going, that was an awesome session and I felt great.
Yes.
And
Oh,
the
it's
next
amazing.
day you're supposed to do something else, but you don't do it because you don't feel like it.
Yep.
You kind of you have to show up when you don't feel like it, basically,
Yep.
um, because that's when a lot of the growth happens.
Thank
Okay.
you for joining me here today. We're going to be talking with Nikole about a lot of interesting things and about a challenge she's decided to take on at this stage, which is a little unexpected. I didn't realize how big a challenge it actually was. She talked to me a little bit about it, but I actually had sort of gone, oh, okay, yep, that sounds like your normal sort of challenges, but I didn't realize it was actually a much bigger mountain, and we're going to get into that a little bit. But one of the first things I asked you to do, which was send me a couple of quotes that resonated with you. Actually, the first one I've always loved, which is being challenged in life is inevitable, being defeated is optional. I always love that one.
Yeah.
How did these quotes, have they always been strong with you? When did they come along? How did they sort of work for you?
So to be honest, I don't remember, and I'm just opening up my quotes that are right in front of me. The being challenged in life is inevitable, being defeated is optional. I came across that. I don't know, every once in a while I get inspired to find really cool quotes.
Okay, yep.
So I was just Googling and I came across it and I was like, oh, I like that, because I always think, when I take on a challenge, it's like, and as we will talk about what I'm doing, but I always take things on that, initially feel ludicrous. And I think, well, it's, yes, I've taken this on, but it's now up to me about whether I let this, defeat me or whether I actually just smash it down, because it's completely my choice.
Yep.
I've set myself the challenge, and it's I can let it. What's the saying? Oh, you bite off more than you can chew.
Yep. And then start
So
treating my plate.
and that was another thing that I actually said to myself a few years back when I had set myself a different challenge, and I said, when you bite off more than you can chew, you have two options. You can let the overwhelm get to you,
Yep.
or you can chew like hell. And I
Yes.
always choose to chew like hell. So I think it's, it just, I don't know, it's me. It's 100% me.
100% you. So
Yeah.
of course, like with anything, that would never come back to bite you as well when you put way too much in and you're chewing way too much and then, then go on.
Oh, look, I just think, I'm an all or nothing kind of person. So, it's like I'm either all in or I'm all out. So
Yep.
I choose to always be all in.
So that actually makes me think of that one of the first challenges I knew you'd taken on, which
Mm.
was leaving a very secure job and a very job that
Well-paying
people
job.
think, yeah, that people think is, this is the pathway, this is, you've got a set way and everything's all laid out for you, to then suddenly getting into, or not obviously suddenly, but
Yeah.
choosing to get into more the lifestyle that you've chosen now, which is around PT and stuff like that. Like how big a challenge was that? How long did you mull over it? How long, like how did that all come about?
Yeah, that was in the pipeline a lot longer than people realize.
Yep.
So how it all came about was that I was working in television, and I was working at the ABC, and I still to this day love, like, my passion is doing, one of my passions is doing live work,
Yep.
video work, and I still do it. I still do contracts. But I was finding that, in my life at the time, there was a lot of things that had happened. My father-in-law had passed away, and my dad was very unwell and had emergency surgery, and I'd lost a couple of friends and stuff like that. And I was kind of like, I was in this weird headspace of, what are we doing this for? And I was
Yep.
going to work every day being miserable, because I loved what I did, but the
Yep.
content that I was working with was just
Okay.
depressing me so much, because I was either working at the Northbourne studios doing international news, which is just doom and gloom, and
Yep.
then, or I was at Parliament House doing politics, and I hate politics. Like, I find them just so boring and frustrating. It's just not my thing. Like, no disrespect to anybody who loves it, but it's not me. So I was
Yep.
finding that, with having all that stuff that are going on around me, and, trying to reassess of, what I wanted out of life, and then going to work every day, dealing with that depression every day of, something big happens, there's a siege or there's a bombing or whatever, and you're just, you're just surrounded by it, for your entire shift. And it's just, some nights I would come home and just pour myself a couple of glasses of wine just to try and get myself out of the funk. So, and at the same time, I had been doing a lot of health changes for myself, because I actually suffer from chronic reflux, and I had to change my diet because I'd been taken off my medication, which is a very long story we won't go into. But point being, I had to overhaul my diet to manage my reflux. And so while I was doing all that, and I saw the difference that it made to myself, and I sort of had a bit of a pause from exercise for a couple of years, and I'd started getting fit again, and I was like, this is actually doing so much for me and my, for not only for my health, but also for my mindset, that I want to help other people do this. So it was a combination of sort of that change in my life to going through all that horrible stuff, that I went, well, what am I going to do? I don't want to be in this job that I hate, so I want to get out of this. And it actually took 4 years of planning and studying before I left. So I did a nutrition course, which what else? It wasn't great, but anyway, kind of gave me a taste. I've done stuff since, and then I did my personal training course, and I had kind of given myself a deadline because we were going to Europe for a wedding. And this was in May 2017. And I had said to Chris, I think that when we go to Europe, I don't want to go back to work after that. And I was pretty close to finishing my PT.
That sort of gave you a little bit of a...
So it gave me, So basically I resigned. So I gave 4 weeks notice. And I finished on the Friday. I ran the Mother's Day Classic on the Sunday morning. We flew out to Europe on the Sunday night. I was still doing assignments while we were in Europe. So I had 3 assignments left to do for my PT course. And I was doing those in French countryside every morning, which was just lovely. And then we got back a month later. And then, so that was mid-June. And then probably took another three-ish weeks after that to finalize everything, get my qualifications through, and then start working. So, it was a huge move, but it was about 4 years of planning, because I kind of had to put quite a few things in place before I could walk out of a well-paying job.
That's a really important first point, though, that when the nutrition, you started there, but that's not where you ended up being. And, sometimes when we think of, we have to, has to be exactly the right choice before we step away. Yeah. Whereas, often we have to explore different opportunities and different processes before we actually go, okay, this is actually the path that I want to do.
Well, the nutrition one's an interesting one, because that's like kind of what gave me the inspiration. But then the course that I did, honestly, I wish I hadn't. But this is there's a lot of courses out there that say you become a nutritionist, but you actually don't. Like, to be able to practice as a nutritionist, you have to be accredited and insured. And a lot of these courses don't do it. Generally, you have to go to uni. But I have since done a course which is internationally recognized and is an official accreditation, and I am insured to practice, but it limits me to a non-clinical qualification. Which is fine. Yeah. So I am now legally qualified and accredited and insured to practice nutrition. So kind of went full circle, but yes.
It started there and went, whoa.
Yeah. I actually more kind of did this, but yeah.
But I guess that the nutrition was part of, because that sort of tapped into that first part of your health.
Yeah.
Sort of then went for there. Okay, cool. So how much of then your earlier life has led to and shaped to where you are now?
Oh, a lot, because and that's the thing, like, a lot of people went, oh, you're going from TV to PT, that's a big change. But if you kind of know me at all, you know that I've been active my entire life. So I started dancing when I was 3 years old, and I did that. Well, I actually performed in August this year, so I guess I'm still doing it to some degree. But not a lot these days. But and then I started running in my late teens when I started uni.
Okay.
And then I started weight training in my kind of mid-20s, and that was the reason that also started, was because I was doing musical theatre shows and I wasn't training. So I was starting to get injured because I would sort of, have a break and then go all in again. So I started doing weight training to bridge the gap between musical theatre shows and prevent injury.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So I've kind of, I mean, I've been active my entire life. So I guess for me, it was a very natural move to go into personal training, even though to the outside world, it seemed like a really big change.
Yes.
And I guess in many ways it was in terms of day to day, but in terms of who I am, it was very much a part of me. Yeah.
Yeah. So did in a funny way, the producing and being in that lifestyle, did that almost feel like all the time, like this is not really me, even if, like, I know sometimes now you take on projects. Yeah.
No, that was, I mean, I like I said, I loved working in television. Yep. I still love doing video contracts. So I still direct screens for live shows and things like that. And last week I was mentoring a bunch of kids in Sydney for some vet students in a live scenario, or live entertainment scenario. So I very much think that, well, it very much still is me, but it's just, I only want to do the things that I want to do.
I want to choose that path.
Yes.
Be demanded of. Yes. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. So obviously we met a little bit with flying.
Yes.
And you had, with flying, that comes with its own little challenges there.
Yeah.
That led a little bit, like, I know you obviously enjoyed it and had a lot of passion with that as well. And that also came with a little bit of a fear hiccup. Is that similar to the one that you've taken on? Or is that totally different? No,
totally different.
Yep.
I've never really completely understood what happened with flying. I still enjoy doing it. I don't do it often enough these days to go and tackle inland flying. I kind of just enjoy boating around at the moment whenever I do get to do it. Just because, I'm just, currency is not there.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So, so I don't want to go hurt myself or put myself. I actually enjoy it more now than I have in a long time.
Oh, cool.
But I don't know. I think with anything that I do, I put a lot of pressure on myself.
Yep.
And I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to get to a certain standard, I guess, in flying, and I wasn't getting there, and it started frustrating me, and then fears started creeping in, and it kind of, everything came a bit undone for a while, but I persevered, as I do, because I'm not a give up kind of person. And that also went full circle, and I've come back to loving it again. But again, I do it like with video work. I do it only in conditions that I want to do it in at the moment, because I just don't fly enough. So I don't ever want to put myself in a position where I am pushing myself through conditions that I don't want to be in, scare myself, and then I want to do it again. So I'd rather just wait and have a happy little boat around at the end of the day, and then I'm happy and I have good memories of it.
No, exactly. It is a funny, like, when you're almost competitive with yourself and wanting to do as well as you possibly can with something, to actually go, but that's not relaxed. Like, I know I can enjoy this. And if I take the foot off the pedal, I can actually really enjoy it and still really be passionate about it. And yet there's this trigger in your brain going, but you got to do the best you possibly can. You've got to do the best you possibly can. The best you possibly can. Like, it's supposed to be enjoyable.
The funny thing is, like, I actually I'm not sure if I get criticized is 100% correct, but I guess in some ways I do get criticized for for being so demanding of myself. And, like with my races, I want to get a PB every time I race. And I know that's not realistic.
That's not always realistic.
But, like, I've done over 20 races and I think I've missed a PB about 3 times. So, my track record is
pretty good.
Decent.
Pretty damn
but,
good.
there is going to come a point where there is always a point where, that's the PB is not realistic. And then people say to me, if you put so much pressure on yourself for a PB, that's just crazy. Why don't you just go and enjoy it? And it's like, but for me, that is enjoyment.
That is the enjoyment. Yeah.
That is the enjoyment. For me, going out and pushing my boundaries and pushing my limits and finding that's what I enjoy doing. So I absolutely love going out there and gunning for a PB. Like, that is, for me, that is what I love doing. And yes, there are some days when it doesn't happen, like in April when I raced a half marathon with pseudoephedrine because I was sick as a dog. And I didn't get a PB, but I knew that before I started. So I didn't
So
start
that
there
wasn't
expecting to get it. So I just went out and ran because I was like, it's not gonna happen today. I'm lucky that I'm at the start line. So,
I think one of the things that took me a little while to come to terms with as well was it's your personal best in terms of the conditions of that day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so sometimes let's say like for running, if you're booting up against a headwind for the whole day,
oh my God,
that time's not comparable.
Nah.
But we can sometimes still have that cycle, but it wasn't my personal best, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's your personal best on that day by a long way.
Sure.
You stuck it out. And I think sometimes we've all got to remind ourselves of that.
Definitely.
So let's move on to the challenge that that I sort of brushed aside when I first heard about it. Just Nikole doing her thing.
Nikole doing her thing is never just something,
I want you to acknowledge, Ben, that it's not just a thing. It's an out-and-out challenge. All right, please describe for us the challenge that you decided to take on.
So I am doing a half Ironman next May.
Yep.
The original, so just to give it a little bit more context.
Yep.
I actually have no recollection of what made this event and this specific event a thing for me, because it was so long ago that I decided I wanted to do the Port Macquarie half Ironman that I don't actually remember why that particular thing appealed to me, right?
Yep.
But I decided that I wanted to do a half Ironman.
Yep.
And but when I decided that I wanted to do it, my husband and I were trying to have a baby.
Yep.
And not finding that very easy, it took some time. So I kind of had to put that and a whole bunch of other goals on the list and push that list aside, because it just wasn't realistic to be training for some of these goals whilst I was trying to fall pregnant. So it's been kind of in the back burner for quite some time. And then gave birth to our beautiful girl 2 years ago almost. She's 2 in a week. Oh my God. But anyway, so after Chloe was created in Earthside, I was like, okay, let's pull that list back out and start working through it. And,
Mummy's got things to do.
Mummy's got things to do, exactly. Too many things have been on hold and we need to get back out and do them. So anyway, my plan was, because I kind of initially I found it hard to get consistency with my running, just because, trying to find my way as a mum, I guess, and figuring out my time and all the things. Yep. So I didn't really get consistent with my running until about September last year. Okay. So I decided at that point, I had decided that 2023 was going to be the year of running.
Okay.
Get all that sorted and get everything back on track. And then 2024 was going to be the year of swimming.
Yep.
And then 2025 was going to be Port Macquarie half Ironman.
Okay.
And then I was reading this book.
Oh, yeah, yes, great book.
Yep. Here because she's amazing. Power of Possibility by Alexandra Andre, and she's amazing. So she talks about, it's basically her journey to a full Ironman that she did. But I found that book so inspiring. So this is back in June this year, that I was about a third of the way through it, and I went, you know what? Let's do it next year. So I rang my husband and I said, hey, that half Ironman I was going to do 2025, what do you reckon about next year? He goes, do it. I said, serious? He goes, yeah. He goes, if anyone can do it, it's you, just do it. And I went, okay. Hung up the phone from him, messaged my running coach, and I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this.
Yep.
He replied with, that is awesome, I'm very excited. Before he had actually replied, I had hopped online and registered. So by the time, I don't muck around, right? So by the time he had replied, I replied back to him, I've just registered, we're doing this. And then the next message was, by the way, I can't swim. Do you know anybody who can teach me?
I think you should explain, it's not I can't it's a genuine I can't swim.
It was, yeah, and that's actually, and that took him by surprise as well, because he didn't realize that at the time. He just thought I needed some help. So anyway, he gave me the name of a person, Susan, and I rang Susan straight away. And 2 days later, I was in the pool.
This is 11 o'clock at night. You rang her.
No, it was during the day. So this is all during the day. Chloe was at daycare, so I had time to do things. So 2 days later, I was in the pool, and she said to me, "Okay, show me what you can do." And I have to ask her how far I actually went, but I reckon I didn't go further than 2 meters. Like it was pretty woeful. So she went, "Okay, well, let's strip this back and get into it." So we started doing some drills and doing some stuff, and then it was really funny because in September I did the Sydney Marathon, and in the 10 days post-marathon in recovery time, my coach scheduled in a couple of bike sessions and a swim session. And the swim session was 800 meters in intervals. And I just laughed when I saw it, and I messaged him and I said, "Hey, I don't think you realize that when I said I can't swim, this session is not going to happen." And he was like, "Oh." And I said, "I haven't done 25 meters yet." So, so yeah. But I now can do 25 meters.
Yep. Yeah.
And just before I got sick.
Just remind me again, how far is the half marathon swim?
Oh, yeah, 1.9 kilometers.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So to answer your previous question, so it's a 1.9 kilometer swim, a 90K ride, and then a half marathon after that.
So what made you have the courage to put yourself in front of someone and say, "This is my swimming style right at this moment"? Well, did that not even occur to you that was it? You know how some people feel, I can't show anyone just where I'm starting from. Well, but you just went, I need to get this done, so I don't care.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, well, if I'm going to swim 1.9 kilometers in May, then I have to start like right now.
So the will to get it done overcame anything else.
Oh yeah, look, I'm terrified of swimming. Like I'm actually, and I think the fear comes from embarrassment, because I'm embarrassed that I'm an adult who can't swim. So
yeah, but that's what I'm asking. So that question was, but
I do it because I have to.
And did your 2 meters for anyway?
Yeah. But I mean, like if I have any chance of getting this swim done in May, then I have to put myself out there and make myself vulnerable so that I can.
So did you trust that your running coach was going to put you in front of someone that was going to be like, that was going to treat you in a really encouraging way in that moment? Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I trust my running coach 100%. And when I spoke to this woman on the phone before I met her, I instantly got a good feeling about her. So I was like, okay, I feel good about this.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a little side story to this, which was back in 2017, because I actually have done one triathlon in the past. And so October 2016, one of my friends rang me and said, "Hey, I want to do this triathlon. I want to do it with me." And I said, "Yeah, sure." And she goes, "No takebacks." And I went, "No takebacks." And then I went, "Holy crap, I can't swim." Oh, well, I was committed at that point, so off we go. But that one was triathlon pink, and that one was in a pool. Now, so that was October. The try was in April the following year, and I didn't do anything about swimming until about January, and really not till about February, and really not till about March. So I was in a really bad place at that point. I had a friend at the time who was a really good swimmer who was helping me a lot. But, he kept saying to me, because I was getting frustrated, and he'd say to me, "Nick, Rome wasn't built in a day." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm aware it wasn't built in a day, but this race is in 2 weeks and I need to get through it somehow." So, and the way I got through,
built in 2 weeks, because
possibly built in 2 weeks because Nikole says so. But the way I got through that one, so that was a 600-meter swim in a pool. So you'd zigzag the pool and then jump out, run around, jump back in, and then do another.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So it was broken up into 2 300s. But the way that I got through that was that I would get to the shallow end, and once I got to the shallow end, I would stand up and I would waddle around the buoy until I was about waist height, and then I would, go back in, swim as far as I could, and then turn to breaststroke, and then breaststroke my way back to the shallow end, stand up and waddle around. So that's how I got through that triathlon. And that was in 2017, but there is no way I can fake a 1.9 kilometer swim in a river. So I had to get on it straight away. But when I was training for that, or when I was trying to learn to swim for that previous one, like there were days where I would drive myself to the pool and I would be so terrified of people seeing me not being able to swim that I would literally hop back in the car and drive home and not actually.
Because
I know, and it's funny because I always say to people in the gym who get scared, I go, the girl, people are watching me, and I'd say to them, stop, look around you. Who's actually watching you? Nobody is doing the right thing. But I feel that when I go to the pool, I feel like people are watching me and going, oh my God, check out that adult who can't swim. So for me, it's a very vulnerable position to be putting myself in, to be in a pool and trying to block everything else out and just trying to focus on what I'm doing so that I can swim 9 kilometers in 5 months' time.
That spotlight effect is very powerful in terms of what you think everyone's looking at. Yeah, once you realize that, it doesn't suddenly take it away, but it just gets you into. So what gets you into? So do you still have that a little bit, or that's mostly past now?
I get it a little bit when I go to the pool by myself.
Okay. Yep. Just for your own day.
Yeah. So I do 2 sessions with my coach. And I do another 2 on my own. But I always get on the website of the local pool and check the timetable and go when there is nothing else happening and less likely to have more people around. So I realized last night actually that I'm going to run out of that luxury very soon when school holidays start.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Yeah. But while I've got it, I'll take it.
Yes. Cross that bridge when it comes along.
Exactly. Hopefully by then I can swim a couple of laps a bit more easily, and then I won't feel quite as embarrassed.
That's where you just act casual at the other end of the pool.
Taking a break.
So is there anything actually about being in the water that worries you, or the water itself isn't too bad?
I've always loved being in the water since I was a kid. Like I actually grew up near the beach, but I always found ways to always stay in the shallow end. I always used to just splash around the shallow end. So I've always loved being in there, but I've never
just strategically avoided.
Yes, I was very strategic about where I went.
Did you go to the ocean much?
Did I?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in Greece, we didn't have an ocean. We have a sea. So it's much calmer. The sea is much calmer. The sea is much calmer than the ocean, Benjamin. But yes, I mean, when we moved to Australia and we went to the ocean, I was terrified. Like I still won't go into the surf. It just scares the bejesus out of me. I have been caught in a rip in the past, and that's...
God, that must have been terrifying.
Yeah, one of my friends had to come and save me. But I'm getting better, but I don't know. I think once I feel a bit more confident swimming, then I'll feel a bit more confident about how far I venture out in open water. Right now I have the safety of a pool that has ends that I can swim.
It's just back and forth.
Yeah.
And hold it each.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder if they could put some of those in the river for me. So
I'm sure they could.
Little rest.
The safety guy with the...
Yes. Do you mind if I just hold for a sec?
So have you always been good at picking a good tribe around you to be encouraging, or to be the person you need to be in that situation?
That's a very good question. I mean, yes, because I have a very supportive husband. So Chris, just any crazy ideas I come up with, he 100% backs. So he's and he believes in me quite often more than I believe in myself. So in that sense, yes. I mean, a lot of my friends are active, but they're not as like they're active, but they're not competitive. Like they don't do events.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I do have a couple of friends who do events, but yes, I do. I'm getting better at having better people around me, I guess, who don't just laugh at me for the ideas that I come up with.
Say what?
What? Try not to a half Ironman when you can't swim. What's your problem?
Have you ever been affected by negative talk from others? That's always been a really strong part.
Yeah, I don't really. I mean, like I said, my friends, whilst we might have a laugh about it, they're not negative. So, they still support me. They think I'm crazy, but.
So this must mean that your days have to be quite structured. Is that how you make this all work?
Yeah, so it's been quite interesting. So Chloe goes to daycare Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I will generally drop her off in the morning and then do either the ride or the run that is scheduled for that day. And then lunchtime I'll go for a swim.
Yep.
And then in between all that I've got to work. And then Monday and Tuesday, my mum comes around in the morning so that I can ride or run and then swim.
Yep.
And then the weekends are a little bit of either my mum or Chris, depending, on what's happening and how much he's working, as to who looks after Chloe. And I go and do that. It's only sort of just started ramping up maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. So okay. Before that, it was only because we were still sort of doing run events. So I was running maybe 4 days a week. Whereas now it's a 7-day adventure.
Okay. Yep.
So there's a little bit more logistics to work out.
Yeah.
But, and especially like when we go away, I now need to take my runners and my bike and my swimmers and when we go to town.
I was going to say, with all the travel and that continuity of, you're not just at home, like you're in different locations, is that sometimes
it's tricky. It's tricky.
Yeah.
Even before the bike and the swim came into play, I do a lot of the contracts that I do are week long, and we were doing a week long in Newcastle in June, and I was training for the Gold Coast Half Marathon.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was 2 weeks after we got back. So, I was working and I had to do a 20K run, and I had a 4-hour break in shows. So in those 4 hours, I ducked back to the accommodation, put my runners on, went for a 20K run, had a shower, and went back to work. So, you kind of have to fit them in where you can.
Sweaty Betty came back to work.
Yeah. But, it is tricky though, because especially with those contracts, I do really long hours. So then to get up and go for an intervals run or a long run or whatever, it can be really hard, and some days I just have to force myself to get out when I just want to stay in bed. But it's
so do you just how do you remain accountable to yourself in those situations, when especially I find, especially after those weeks, sometimes you can get it done during the week itself, which is tough, but you juggle somehow. But then when you get back, which is when the tiredness really hits because you let yourself down, that's the time when you go, oh God, when should I be kind and go, should I give myself a day off? Or no, this is going to put miles on my legs that I need for 3 weeks time.
Yeah, I'm actually very good at reading my body. So I know, and I have pulled the pin on runs where I've just been like, I am too exhausted to do this, and there is zero value in me doing it. But I know myself really well, and I know when I can push through and when I can't. And if I can't push through, then I don't.
So what's an indication for you that this is I'm tired but a yes, or I'm exhausted but this should be a no?
If I start a run and I start feeling better while doing it.
Okay, so
I'll always start the run.
Okay, you always start the run.
Yeah,
okay.
I'll always start the run. So if I start a run and I go, I'll give you an example. So there was a few weeks ago, I was out for an intervals run on a Saturday morning.
Yep.
And I was not feeling good. I had a few things going on at the time, and I was exhausted, and I went out for my run, and I had to do 7 rounds of a particular set of intervals. And after the first round, I was like, this is crazy. I feel like crap. I should just go home. And then I was like, nah, let's just do one more.
Yep.
And then I did one more and I was like, well, that didn't feel any worse. Let's do one more. And then I started to feel a bit better and I was like, let's just keep going. And at that point, I had told myself that I will do as much as I can and then stop when I can't go anymore. But I ended up doing the whole session because I ended up feeling better and better as I went through. On the flip side, there was one time I was supposed to do I think it was a 10K run or maybe a 15K run. And I started running, and within the first 2 kilometers, I was like, my body just wasn't. There was just nothing. I felt like I was hitting a wall, and I was well fueled because I'm very good at fueling my body and hydrating my body. So I was very well fueled and hydrated. There was just nothing there because of how exhausted I was and a whole bunch of stuff that had been going on at the time. So I've said, you know what, if you can't get through 2Ks without feeling like you're going to die, you're not going to get through 15. So so I pulled the pin, I went home and I did it the next day instead.
Oh, okay. Yep. So your thing is put yourself in the opportunity, but then be
realistic with and it is a fine line of knowing when you're tired but you're going to get value out of it to you're tired but it's actually going to be bad for you. And not everybody, I acknowledge that not everybody is capable of telling the difference. But I luckily can tell the difference because I've been doing it for a very long time and I'm very aware of my body and I'm very in tune with what's going to be beneficial and what's not. So I hardly ever pull the pin on a session, but if I have to, then I do.
And then you don't have any negative self-talk from that. Like you go, no,
that was the right thing to do at the time, and there is no, because I would have actually done myself a disservice if I had actually pushed through. For example, like we got gastro in February and I missed my long run and I was desperate to get the long run in. So 4 days later, and it was a 34-degree day, I stupidly went out in the evening thinking that it would be okay. And 6Ks into a 18K run, I rang Chris and I said, come pick me up. Because I was still feeling very deflated. I hadn't eaten very well for 4 days and it was 30 degrees. So I'm like, this is stupid. Go home. Try again another time when it's not like this.
I think that sometimes, especially as a parent as well, we sometimes go, well, this is the only time, the only opportunity, so I must do it. And we spend so much emotional energy doing that as well. You're using up the emotional energy, you're using up everything else as well, and then you're giving yourself a hard time about it all, rather than go, it's just like life is life. Like sometimes things will not work to plan.
But I also think with that being a parent is like, if I fall in a heap and it was just me, well, then it's okay. But I have a toddler that I have to look after. So I have to make my decisions, not only for myself, but then for my ability to continue functioning and look after my toddler.
The dads don't have that. We don't.
No, because the mums do it.
We're just callous. Yes, totally. it is a really, like you see it obviously with the horse riding and stuff, like mothers coming back to riding, feel that real whole, if something happens to me, what's going to happen, to my child. And it doesn't matter what circumstance, whether they've got a loving partner or a partner that's there all the time or not, they still have this really burdensome, sometimes fear of, I've got to be the one that's got to be there. Obviously as fathers, we definitely have that feeling as well, but it's certainly nowhere near as strong on the whole. Women. So sometimes just scraping yourself over the line to, yes, I can get that done, but I've then got to, in half an hour time, I've got to change a nappy or show up.
Exactly.
That's that energy just keeps on draining. Like no matter.
For me, another good example was the Sydney Marathon. I was hoping to do that in a certain time, but the forecast was for 32 degrees. So in the lead up to it, I was like, all right, that time is possible, but probably not probable because I'm going to have to pull back because I also get quite heat affected. So I'm like, I can't race at the pace that I want in those temperatures. And then the night before, I changed my race plan and I messaged my coach and I said, I've changed my race plan. I think I'm going to walk a minute every 10 kilometers. He said, good idea. And I went, okay. So I went into the race with that plan. But that plan got chucked out the window at 15 kilometers because it was already so hot.
Yeah.
And by 20 kilometers is where I started changing my strategy physically.
Yep.
So at 15, I knew that I wouldn't be able to maintain that.
Yep.
At 20 is when I actually started making the physical changes. And I ended up running water station to water station, even though I was carrying my own water.
Yep.
Taking a cup from every single water station after 20 kilometers.
Yep.
Drinking half of it, pouring the other half down my back, and continuing on to the next station.
Yep.
Because I knew, and there was, again, two parts of it for me, is like, one, I knew that I get quite heat affected. So if I was going to continue to push, I would possibly end up one of the many, many, many casualties that I saw along the way.
Yep.
I would either be crippled at the finish line.
Yep.
Or I wouldn't be able to function for the following week.
Yes.
And for me, none of those were an option because, one, I don't want to be in a position where I can't function. Two, I have a toddler to look after.
Yep.
And three, I don't want to be sick. Like I saw, and, you know, my strategy worked perfectly. I mean, sure, I didn't get the time that I wanted, but it was my first marathon and I was very happy to finish and sprint the last kilometer to the finish line. And then happily walk around for the rest of the day and then get up, and like I was a little bit sore the next day, but I wasn't too bad. And I mean, had I run the whole thing at the pace I want, I don't doubt for a second that I would have been very sore. But because I changed strategies, like I was able to keep functioning and look after my daughter, which is all part of the scenario, which is also very hard when you're extremely competitive with yourself. You have to not only think about the goals that you're trying to achieve, but also then being present and capable for somebody else.
Yeah, that really realistic. And that's sort of that funny thing of, you know, part of your lifestyle has to be so structured, and yet part of your mindset has to be so flexible. And, you know, whether you know, we can all use one or other of those two things as a block. But you seem to be able to switch between both things as required, rather than actually go, oh no, reality says I must have done this and this and this, or I need to be flexible, and that doesn't allow me to do, you know, that.
It's a fine art, really, trying to balance it all. But look, so far it seems to be going pretty well. It's gonna get tougher because the training sessions are going to get longer.
Yep.
But it's only really, I mean, the thick of it is going to be 4 months. So 4 months is not a hell of a long time to
put things aside and do stuff.
Put things aside, yeah. And it just means, you know, I may have to say no to some social stuff and, you know, not have my glass of wine on a Friday night. But, you know, it's again, it's a short-term thing that for a goal that means a lot to me. So it's just what you do, really. You got goals, you do what you need to do to get them, don't you?
Oh, very much so. Very much so.
I see these big adventures.
Big, silly adventures. So what advice would you give to someone else in terms of if they're thinking of biting off and chewing as fast as possible? How do you then stay on track? Because it's easy to go, I want the goal. Like that's sometimes the easiest part. But then to actually chew as fast as you possibly can, what ingredients do you put in place, or what do you attribute to actually those things coming off?
Look, you do have to be a certain personality to, I think, to stick to something like that. Like there's a lot of, and you know, having, you know, doing what I do come across a lot of people who go, I want to do this, but then don't actually do what they're supposed to get to that goal, right?
What you're supposed to.
But you know what I mean. Like, you know, you've got to, you know, if you want to get here, if you want to go from A to B, you've got to kind of follow a certain.
There's got to be a change
from A to B, right? And if you're not willing to follow that path, well, then you're not going to get there, or it's going to take you far longer to get there. So I think, you have to have the commitment and the willpower to see it through.
So that's a really interesting. Okay, so willpower. Where do you put willpower in all this stuff? Because, you know, willpower is a funny. Willpower
it is a funny thing.
It is a really funny thing.
where do I put it? I don't know. It's just, for me, it's just there. It's you have to commit to being uncomfortable.
It's like a nagging
friend. You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you have to know, and
often not in the ways you think as well, don't you find?
Yes, 100%.
That's sometimes you go, okay, if you talk to someone about setting a goal and they go, oh yeah, I'll be uncomfortable there and there and there. But it's often the one they don't expect is the one that bites them. That's even not the most uncomfortable thing they'll be doing, but it's the one they go, oh, I don't want to tolerate that. You
have to be willing to show up on the days that you don't feel like showing up.
Yeah.
Because those sessions are the ones that really make a big difference. So it's great if you can, if you're feeling good on a Monday and you go and smash out a session and you're going, that was an awesome session and I felt great.
Yes. Oh, it was amazing.
You're supposed to do something else, but you don't do it because you don't feel like it.
Yeah.
You kind of, you have to show up when you don't feel like it, basically.
Yeah.
Because that's when a lot of the growth happens, and then it makes the days that you do feel good even better.
Because that's not even sometimes where you're not even uncomfortable at that point. You're just not showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not showing up isn't uncomfortable, is it? Because you're just not there.
Yeah.
So you're probably very comfortable doing something else.
Something safer and wiser.
Something safer, exactly. I hate running in the rain, right? Hate it. I'm going to put it out there. I hate it. But I do it because sometimes it rains on race day. So what do you do?
Do you listen to stuff when you run?
Yes, all the time.
See, I find that really interesting because I love listening to podcasts. I love listening to music and stuff like that, except when I'm running. I like to hear my body suffering as I run. A lot
of people do that. And a lot of people say that you should just listen, absorb the atmosphere, whatever. For me, it changes my mindset. So quite often if I'm going for an easy run, I will listen to not necessarily slow music, but just sort of more chill music because then it makes me go slower.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Whereas if I'm going for a faster run, I'll listen to more upbeat stuff.
Yep.
Or I may listen to a podcast if I'm going for an easy run because then, again, I've just got that sort of slower, more relaxed mindset. But yeah, no, I like to listen. I don't listen when I ride. I listen when I run.
Oh, see, I'm the other way around. I do the bike, I do the listening, and I don't. Yeah,
I think because running is my. So if you take the 3 disciplines, right? So I am a runner who rides, who is trying to swim.
Yep.
Right? So running is my comfort zone.
Yep.
So I can listen to things.
So your bandwidth is wide enough. That
exactly. Riding, I can ride, but sometimes I still have to concentrate. Like today when I went out for a ride, there was quite a lot of debris because of the rain yesterday.
Yep.
And concentration level.
Quite a lot, yeah.
So I couldn't be listening to anything because I'm too busy trying not to go arts up. So
no, totally.
Yeah.
It's hectic out on the road yesterday.
Yes. I have to say I was not sad about yesterday being a rest day for me. With all that rain, I was not upset about that.
That was quite heavy rain.
To be honest, if I had to run yesterday, I probably wouldn't have gone outside. I probably would have gone to the treadmill, which is another interesting one because I find the treadmill so soul destroying. I can't do it. So I have to be desperate to go and jump on a treadmill. Again, some people love it and kudos to you, but not
it's funny, some people almost find it as a meditative state, for them. But others, it's
for me, it just kills me. But it's the same though, when I run, I can't do laps.
Oh, okay. You've got to go somewhere.
I have to go somewhere that I have to come back from. It's this, and same with all my training. It's I'm always because everyone goes, I finished something, and they go, oh, are you working towards something? It's I am always working towards something because if I'm not, I can't train. It's I lose focus and I lose perspective, and I kind of just get a little bit lost in it all. So I always have to have, whether it's a strength goal or a fitness goal or a race goal or whatever, I always have that. There always has to be something measurable that I'm working towards for me to be able to focus on what I'm doing and commit to what I'm doing.
and commit.
And it's funny because like I've always like, yeah, I always set myself goals. So before I even finish one, I've got the next one ready to go because I know that, I mean, I've got a million goals anyway, but
that suits my personality. And that's like your second one, which is hard work is fun. I think that's
that one actually, I'm trying to remember who posted it. I have a feeling, and don't quote me on this, but I have a feeling it was someone like Bethany Hamilton who posted it. Bethany Hamilton is the surfer who had the arm top. I think it was her, but I'm not 100% sure. And it was somebody else had said it to her.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah. And it said, hard work is fun, impossible is just a challenge, and our biggest obstacles are our greatest adventures.
Yeah.
And that is 100% me.
Yeah, there and there, right in a nutshell.
Yeah. Because I do think hard work is fun. I think, you know, because you accomplish something. So I know for me, it's like, yeah, it's like going back to what we were talking about before, you know, enjoying yourself versus chasing PBs. But for me, chasing PBs is enjoyable. So
yes, that's just different motivating things work for different things. Like, you know, exactly. So that's, and I don't think some people get caught up in all that's not my thing, but you know, you just got to find what your thing is. Like
exactly.
Or
they criticize me for doing what I'm doing because they go, oh, you know, that's silly, you're putting too much pressure on yourself, it's not fun anymore. It's like, but that's you, and for me it is fun. This is what makes me tick. Chasing is trying to improve my stuff, that's what makes me tick. So for me, this is absolutely okay, and it's fun and it's enjoyable because this is what I want to be doing.
But I think that also you're looking at it as well as opposed, like, so that's like you know, perfectionism. Like perfectionism is a really good strength until it becomes your weakness. Like, so working for PBs, but you're showing all throughout this that you're flexible. Yes, I want to do my PB, but I'm actually flexible to going, you know what, this is not the moment for that. You know, I still want to do my very best, but this is the moment for that. And that's,
look, I'll be 100% honest and say that I'm not always that flexible.
If I put a little hand up over here.
Just a little hand up over here. So my recent half marathon that I did, I don't even know when it was, 3 weeks ago, maybe, start of November.
That's right.
I was desperate for a particular time, which was a substantial PB. And I felt it was 7 weeks after the marathon. And even though I had recovered really well from the marathon, I just didn't feel like I was where I should be to get the time that I wanted.
Okay. Yep.
And then I had a really big battle with myself going into the race, going, what? And I actually said to myself, there was one point where I said, what's the point of racing this when I'm not going to get what I want?
Is this at the start or
no? This is before. This was in the week leading into it.
That's right. Yep.
And I actually considered not race. I don't think I've actually told anyone this, but I've actually considered not showing up because I knew that I wouldn't get the time that I wanted. Okay. And then I was like, no, that's not who you are. Just go and run. But I was kind of like, I was having this internal battle of, I know I can get a PB. So I knew that was like, that wasn't me being arrogant. That was me just knowing my body and knowing what I was capable of. And it's like, I know that I can PB this race, but I want more than that.
So it wasn't the PB you're after.
It wasn't what I was after. So I had to do quite a bit of a process of a bit of soul searching, I guess, a bit of chatting with my coach, a bit of chatting with a couple of other people who I trust, including this lady. I was having a chat with her and you know, just trying to find that happy point in my brain where I could show up and race, but not beat myself up for not getting what I wanted because I knew that wasn't realistic. So we had a plan, we had a race plan. But even on the morning, I just wasn't, I wasn't feeling it. I was just like, I don't even know if I want to race. And I actually saw my coach before the run. And I said to him, I don't know if I'm going to race. I think I'm just going to go for a run. And he said to me, okay. He goes, just see how you feel. And then, so I started running and I was still like, because I can't turn off the competitive thing at all, like altogether. So, you know, so I was still keeping an eye on my pace, but I had recalibrated to, instead of maintaining a 5:30 or a 5:40 pace, I
Yep.
had said to myself, try and stay under 6. Because I said if I can stay under 6 minutes per kilometer, I will at least get close to what I did in my last half on the Gold Coast, and I'll make myself be happy with that. And also, like, it wasn't a great course because it's very undulating. It's actually a lot less flat than people realize. So I just kind of, told myself, just hang in there, stay under 6. You can stay under 6, and just see how you go. And
Yep.
about halfway, and the first half was a real battle mentally, because again, I was trying to go, do I push? Do I not push? Do I just sit here? And then about halfway through the race, when we're going for the second lap, I was like, okay, you're not going to get the time you want, so just suck it up, hang in there, you're going to get a PB. Sorry, I'm emotional now. So I just went with it, and I let my brain be okay with it.
Yep.
And I made peace with it. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. This is wonderful. I love it.
So I let myself make peace with it while I was running.
Yep.
And then I said to myself, just hang in there. You've got that PB. Sorry, I didn't expect that to make me emotional. But yeah, I ended up getting a 2-minute 5-second PB. And at the end of that, like, I was spent. I don't think I've felt that spent crossing a finish line in quite some time. So I knew that I gave everything I had. Hey?
Physically or emotionally?
Okay. Physically, yeah. Yep. So I knew that physically I had done everything I could. I knew that I couldn't. I knew that I couldn't on that day, on that course, got any harder.
So your body told you in the end this was actually
everything you had.
Yeah.
So because like say Gold Coast, for example, like I did a 7-minute PB or 7.5-minute PB in that one, and I felt amazing the entire race. And I sprinted over the last 400 meters. Like, I probably did one of my fastest kilometers I've ever done in the last.
Wow. Really?
I felt amazing. I could have kept going.
Yep. That's what you get. This ended a bit early, didn't it?
Yeah, could have made a better time. But like, I thoroughly enjoyed that race, and I did a 7.5-minute PB. But that recent one in Canberra, like, I could not have given it anything more. Like, it was just everything was laid out there. And when I crossed that finish line, I was like, I couldn't have kept running. Like, that was the end of me. So I knew at that point that I hadn't gypped myself of anything, because I had given it everything. And
and yet the beginning, you're going through all this, whereas you've shown up and you've done literally what you can do.
Yeah.
And so reflecting on it the next day, your thoughts?
I was happy.
Yeah.
I'm still desperate for the time that I was chasing, but I'll get it next year.
Yeah. Could you so reflecting on it, can you see like if you were talking to the person at the start line, what would you have said to her now?
Oh God. Person at the start line, I would have said, just relax and enjoy yourself and give it everything you've got.
But what's everything you've got in that sentence, though? Because that's different to the girl hunting the PB of what she thinks should be nailed down.
It is. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. I find, and these are the internal battles that I have with myself when I race, because if I was talking to you at the start line, I'd know exactly what to say. But, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to me. And that's different, which is why I have a coach, because there's somebody else to tell me these things. Because sometimes, and like I said to you before, it's like, I do know what to say to myself, but I sometimes don't want to say it to myself. So I need somebody else to do it for me so that I don't have to.
And that's where that tribe is so important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because, they need to be able to go when to go, you've got this, go for it. Or just you've shown up. That's the main thing. Just put one foot in front of the other. Just keep going for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of my other friends she's an amazing runner and swimmer, and she just did the triple try, actually. She's incredible. But I messaged her during the week and I said, this is where my head's at.
Mm.
She said, go conservative, see how you feel. And if you feel good, step it up. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, yeah, I know. That's exactly what I knew that I had to do that. But I was battling with I guess the biggest battle I had was like, I knew deep down that I wouldn't get the time that I wanted.
Yep.
So the biggest question for me was, do I try? Do I go out trying to get that time
Yep.
and risk burning out and then ending up with a slower time? Or do I just pull it back from the beginning? But if I pull it back from the beginning, if I feel good, it's going to be too late to get that time.
I can't make up that too.
I can't make up.
But we're also talking about something to be the very best personal best, right? Not just you're already going to thinking that you could beat your personal best anyway. Like, so that's
it's hard because it's like you can't sometimes, like I'll do a PB and I'll be disappointed and people go, how can you be disappointed with doing a PB?
Yeah, totally.
And it's like,
and that's the competitive.
It's like I'm because I was hunting a certain time and I didn't get it. Yeah. So and it's very hard to explain that, and it's very hard to explain that without getting criticized for being too hard on myself. But it's like if I'm chasing a certain time and I don't get it, it doesn't matter whether I've done a PB to me because I didn't get what I wanted.
Yeah. Or like that's like for my sport, like so you can be really happy. You can be really happy with a third or a fourth, and yet feel a bit frustrated with a win going, it's not really, or tactically I didn't really do what I wanted to do, or there's a little bit of luck involved there, or whatever. So it's that whole sometimes our minds aren't the most forgiving things.
No. We're I was listening to a podcast before the marathon that said that it was talking about a lot about mindset, and it said that we are inherently programmed to be negative.
Yes. So,
trying to switch it to the positive is actually, a very big challenge. And it's like most of the time, if I'm being completely honest with myself and you, is like most of the time I'm actually very good at switching to the positive and putting myself in a really happy place and going out enjoying myself. But there are times like this recent half where I struggle with it and I go, I really want this, but I know I'm not going to get it. So how do I make peace with that and still go out and do my best and have a good time? Where,
I think that's almost like that journey of what's contentment. Like contentment, some people think of contentment as a failure within itself. You're not striving, but contentment with being just what I can do today is this, and I've shown up and I'm here and I'm going to do the best I can, as your body told you at the end. My body didn't have any more to give you. That is contentment in the end, and that is in itself a more satisfying joy once we let ourselves sink into it, though.
For sure.
With that. So
I think I would have been disappointed if I had crossed the finish line and be like, la la la, I could have kept running. Because I've gone, why didn't you go harder? So the fact that I did cross the finish line and was spent, I was like, all right, well, that's all I have. That was me. That's me done. I did my best. I did get a PB, and that's great.
That is truly wonderful, because that's pretty much a lot of the emotions that we all go through all the time. Like showing up, but then am I doing a good enough job when I'm showing up, and should I be thinking I should be doing more? Or that whole thing. So that's perfect. That is a wonderful. I think we should wrap it up there. That is a really good. Thank you for sharing that story. That's a fantastic story. It's really been a wonderful pleasure.
Actually, we can wrap up by saying my last quote, which is, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is acting in spite of fear, which means that it's okay to be scared. It's okay to be terrified, because I can tell you that I am suitably terrified about this swim next year. And I don't think, no matter how good I get at swimming, I don't think that is likely to change. But, I'm still going to go out and do it. So, it's okay to be scared. It's actually healthy to be scared. And it makes your goals and your achievements that much more worthwhile when you, and so much more satisfying when you know that it was freaking terrifying to do it.
That's a wonderful point. I think we might have to catch up after that marathon. All right.
Yep.
taking care. Thank you very much for that.
Thanks for having me.